Stand up to hypocrisy. If you don't, the hypocrites will teach. Stand up to ignorance, because if you don't, the ignorant will run free to spread ignorance like a disease. This was a hallmark of the Dark Ages. A couple of videos ago, we covered this. It seems as if the world is heading now into a new age of darkness, where ignorance and hypocrisy will be the order of the day. Thomas Sowell, it's amazing, though, how much panic one honest man can spread among a multitude of hypocrites. And finally, Teddy Roosevelt, avoid the base hypocrisy of condemning in one man what you pass over in silence when committed by another. I'm sure a lot of you are already wondering what I'm talking about. Over the last weeks and months, on this channel, I have covered our governor here in Florida, Ron DeSantis, doing news conferences talking about the vaccination. Now, many people have many different opinions. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but you're not entitled to be a hypocrite and you're not entitled to lie. Now, over a week ago, our governor came out and, while urging people to get vaccinated, said one of the main reasons there was hesitancy was because of the messaging coming out of the Biden administration. And I have this here on the left. Chastising holdout. Ron DeSantis urges vaccinations. Blames mainstream messaging for skeptics. Chastising holdouts won't make them change their mind, the governor says. Governor Ron DeSantis, Wednesday, joined the chorus of prominent conservatives urging people to get vaccinated against COVID-19, but he continued criticizing the federal government's approach. Now, my comments have been inundated with anti-vaxxers, believing that my platform is their platform, that they can spout their lies and they can, make up whatever stupid story that they've saw on some ridiculous website and then insist that it gets a platform for a hearing as if it's truth. And they have come after the governor of Florida for this. Oh, he's gone over to the dark side and he's part of the cabal and all this crap. Because he's urged people to get vaccinated and said the reason people are hesitant to get vaccinated is because of a lot of misinformation and poor handling from the Biden administration. Now, yesterday, President 45, quote, Turning Point Action in Arizona, quote, 45th President, I recommend you take the vaccine, but I also believe in your freedoms 100%, before adding, because they don't trust the president, people aren't doing it. Because they don't trust the president, people aren't doing it. Now, here, he acknowledges Joe Biden is president. Here, he literally lets it come out of his mouth. He said, I quote, I recommend that you take it, but I also believe in your freedoms 100%. And this was his quote, not paraphrasing, before adding, quote, because they don't trust the president, people aren't doing it. He just admitted Joe Biden is president, and he's also made this allegation that the reason you're not getting vaccinated, if you have chosen not to, is because of President Joe Biden's mishandling of the situation. He didn't say Biden, don't trust Biden. He said, don't trust the president. Those were his words. It was a slip. And he just gave you the truth. But it's an exact mirror echoing of what our governor has said for weeks. And most people supporting the guy on the right have demonized him for. It's literally the exact same position. One guy said, oh, he's the dark side and he's gone over to the cabal. Other guy says it, total silence. Other guy says it, total silence. Teddy Roosevelt, avoid the base hypocrisy of condemning in one man what you pass over in silence when committed by another. Can you explain, please? Let's continue with what the governor said, Governor DeSantis, in depth. He continued criticizing the federal government's approach. COVID-19 infections and hospitalizations are on the rise nationwide, particularly in Florida. One statistic released by the White House estimated that 20% of new cases last week occurred in Florida. Conservative regions have largely trailed in vaccinations this week. Republican officials and conservative media figures reignited calls for people to get the shot, just like President 45 said you should do. Taking his turn during a press conference in St. Pete, DeSantis stressed the vaccine's effectiveness. Quote, the chances of a fully vaccinated person getting seriously ill or dying is effectively zero. DeSantis said, moreover, nearly 95% of those admitted to hospitals with the disease aren't fully vaccinated. He continued before dismissing the one-offs who still get seriously ill. Quote, these vaccines are saving lives. They are reducing mortality, DeSantis said. However, he criticized the federal government and local officials on multiple fronts as they tried to convince holdouts to get inoculated. According to data released from the Florida Department of Health last week, only 51.2% of the state's eligible population has been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. That's despite vaccines being widely available for months. Most of them don't believe COVID-19 is a hoax, DeSantis said. Most unvaccinated people are younger, and therefore they're calculating that they can handle an infection, a decision he said he understands. To reach unvaccinated people, it's important to be honest about the risks of COVID-19, he added. Another quote, I think that the more they're hectored, I think this might have meant to say heckled, by government officials or some of these folks, that is not going to get them to. Yes, I can tell you that right now. I think these are folks that have skepticism of authorities. And then he refers to the J&J pause when they had the blood clot issue. He says, I think it was a huge mistake. I said so at the time. And I think that sent a message that maybe this is not something that they should be doing. I think that's been unfortunate because, he took it. He thinks it's effective. He also thinks that this idea of the mask mandate is going to tell people that maybe the vaccine doesn't work. It's just poor messaging. You got to remember, Trump was the guy that hired Fauci. President 45 hired Fauci. Went out there multiple times and shoulder to shoulder. No light between them. So please, I would like someone to logically explain for me how you can demonize and call out the governor of Florida for being some sellout or whatever when he's literally echoing. In fact, President 45 is echoing him. Because Governor DeSantis said this first weeks ago. And let me reread the quote from 45. Turning Point Action, Arizona, this past weekend. I recommend that you take the vaccine, but I also believe in your freedoms 100%. Because they don't trust the president, people aren't doing it. Because they don't trust President Biden, people aren't doing it. Is it possible? Just saying, if you're sitting out there confused right now, wondering what to think, is it possible, just possible, that you're not thinking, or you haven't been thinking, you've been feeling this entire time, using your emotions to make decisions, while just believing you were thinking? Because that's the only thing that would really explain that kind of hypocrisy. Where one man says something and you're like, boo, I hate him, oh, he's evil, cabal. But another guy says something and you're like, oh, well, yeah, what a good guy. See, that's evidence of emotionalism. Now, speaking of, we all have to be careful not to get caught up in it. And here's a really good example. This is a person, I'll be very honest, not very familiar with. Martha Bueno. This is her with her little outfit representing Cuba at Freedom Fest 2021. I'm not sure how much I'm on board for having these giant galas and parties when it's very clear that this is just going to be Bay of Pigs 2.0. And I can prove it. See, all the right things. I mean, it looks like an ally, right? Got the Libertarian Party of South Dakota. So when you kick out of your feeling brain, and make no mistake, when you're a guy and you look at this, you're probably not in your thinking brain. You're in your feeling brain. Pretty girl. But when you kick back out of that and you start looking a little closer, okay, all right, makes sense. This is Freedom Fest, Mount Rushmore, South Dakota. This was July 21 to 24. Apparently it's over now. On her Twitter, pardon me, she put up this little blurb from Homeland Security. Boating advisory. It is illegal for boaters to depart with the intent from Florida, I'm assuming here, or anywhere else, I guess, in the United States, to travel to Cuba for any purpose without a permit. I'm sure this is mostly for Florida. Boaters departing any United States port with the intention of entering Cuban territorial waters must obtain permission in advance from the U.S. Coast Guard, 33 CFR, Part 107. Vessels and persons illegally entering Cuban territorial waters are getting underway or departing from U.S. territorial waters with the intention of entering Cuban TTW without the required permit may be subject to seizure of their vessels, civil and criminal penalties up to $25,000 per day and 10 years in prison. People who violate U.S. immigration laws and illegally bring foreign nationals into the country or who attempt to do so may be subject to arrest, vessel forfeiture, civil and criminal, $250,000 a day, and 5 years in prison. Now, how does this jive with this whole idea of Cuba Libre? I mean, wouldn't the idea be, it's like, okay, well, we got a bunch of boats. Why don't we go down there? Why don't we pick up everybody who wants to leave and then bring them back? And get them into the chain, get them into the proper place where they need to be to immigrate to our country legally. Legally. I mean, if the idea is to help these people no matter what, how does that jive with this? Anyway, there's also a video of Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, on Martha Bueno's Twitter. I would recommend going there. I can't even show an image of it here. It's that bad. It's that bad. It's from years ago. But it'll show you something. It'll show you something that not a lot of people have the ability to mentally grasp. You see, you can't follow people. You have to follow ideas. Because Joe Biden, President 45, and Governor DeSantis of Florida all have the same opinion on the vaccination. However, on many other things, there's a wild divergence. That's why you just can't follow a person. You just can't follow a person. You have to look at the ideas. Now, my beliefs as a Floridian are far more in line with that of Governor DeSantis than they are of either one of the other two. Still don't understand why President 45 felt the need to pick up and leave and go live in New Jersey, but, 20 million plus Floridians live down here every, year round. So, anyway, I'll just leave it there. Happy Sunday. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you on Twitch.